Yo, 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 what is up, listener? How are you doing today? This is Marcos coming at you.
Gabriel Santos here.
And welcome to Push Your Evolution Podcast, episode 5.
Episode 5, really?
Yes.
Nice. Episode 5.
We are getting through these. And if you've been following us all along, we hope we've been serving you greatly. All of these episodes are packed with so much information, and honestly, it takes a long time to process every little bit. So, of course, as you're following along with us, if you don't get something, it's okay. Go back, listen to it, let it sit with you. Today's topic is psychedelic experiences, plant medicines, and how the psychedelic experience can help change your life. We're going to talk about our experiences today. We're going to talk about how, honestly, this is one of the major keys to breaking through, creating the change, and raising your consciousness so that you can create the life that you want. And what else do we call that? Pushing your evolution forward, baby.
Nice, dude. Yes. Psychedelics. We're talking about psychedelics today. And like Marco said, whatever you happen to hear in these podcasts, it's what's meant for you. No need to get caught up on, getting everything, or, you don't want to miss out on anything. It's kind of like watching a movie multiple times, right? The first time you watch it, it is what it is. And the second time you might catch something you didn't see before. So it's all good. But I'm personally definitely excited to talk about psychedelics today. And like Marco said, they've definitely played a pivotal role. They continue to play a pivotal role in my life, but especially they kind of act like they're like a catalyst. They're like a catalyst for, I wanted to say consciousness or awareness, or you can even say like, your truth-seeking journey. But yeah, we have many ways we want to take this today. We want to talk about some of our best trips, our worst trips, what we've tried, and pro tips for you.
Definitely. We have a lot of experience between the both of us, and it's time for us to really share how that has served us, how that can serve you, because honestly, there's a whole world out there. If you're just learning about the psychedelic experience through plant medicines and other drugs, there is a whole world that has been taken away from you, especially if you're in the Western culture or most of the world, where drugs and plant medicines have become so taboo. It's annoying, it's frustrating, but that's the old. We're bringing in the new. It's time to bring it to the forefront to understand that, like, if you are on your personal development journey, plant medicines are something that can greatly benefit you beyond anything you could have ever imagined. We're here to release the taboo on things that actually heal you, as opposed to what a lot of things in our society are not even medicine. They're just, what are they?
No,
they're suppressants. They're depressants. How you put that. Yes. Things that really don't serve us.
Yes. So so you're sparking a lot of thought trails for me, but one main purpose, like actual purpose and functions of psychedelics, is the way that they treat what I'm going to call like psycho-emotional centers in the brain and the individual. Because for example, like, it's actually known, correct me if I'm wrong, Marcos, but it's known like certain psychedelics treat addictions or other
100%
personal issues, whereas common over-the-counter prescriptions today, they kind of just treat you chemically. Because for example, you might be someone who's depressed, right? And so a lot of people are prescribed medication for depression. And I know this is a touchy subject, but
half the time that shit doesn't work.
And it just treats the symptoms, not the cause. Whereas the cause can be a deep-rooted trauma, right? And trauma manifests itself in the body as sickness, right? Whether that's sickness of physical or sickness of mental or emotional. And so I don't know all the science, but the psychedelics, in terms of a purposeful function, is to really work on those deep, like, psychoanalytical layers of ourselves,
Exactly.
which you can go to therapy for, which is a helpful field, other types of therapy, but in terms of, I can only describe it as medicine, because
Exactly.
it works in ways that that are somewhat magical, because that's how medicine is. Like, you take a pill of Tylenol and your headache doesn't
Exactly.
work anymore.
Let's
But
just be super fucking honest right now. What
okay.
real medicine is, and what we've categorized as drugs in our pop culture society, is so fucking backwards. Like, none of it really makes sense, because we've been brainwashed through the decades to think that antidepressants or different surgeries or the suppressing of symptoms that we experience is how we cure.
Yeah.
That's not medicine.
Right.
So when we're referring to plant medicine, things of this planet, not synthesized, creating certain psychedelic experiences, part of that psychedelic experience is understanding that this medicine works on a deeply physical, spiritual, mental, emotional level. That is actual medicine. That is how you heal.
I feel that.
So
Yeah.
we're going to shatter all the taboos today. We're going to just break through all the limiting beliefs and perceptions that have held back the way that we perceive actual healing in our minds, bodies, and soul.
Immediately, right away, personally, I'm curious to know, Marcos, like, what was your first psychedelic experience, and what led you to that first experience?
I'm going to frame it this way, right? As we're born, throughout our life, as we go and we grow and we learn new things, we want to think different things in our life. I didn't expect myself to be a life coach at this age. I didn't expect myself to go do ayahuasca in the Amazon jungle with shamans in Peru and face my mortality while I was spinning around in a maloca with 15 other people. I never expected my life to end up there. I was a very, very down to, or what I thought was down to earth, regimented thinking, not very conforming individual in my younger years. I wanted to join the military most of my life. And then when I dropped that, I wanted to be in the DEA, funny enough, right? Drug enforcement, when I didn't really understand any of that. And then I wanted to be a police officer. And then eventually, as my consciousness continued to grow, I realized that all of those institutions that I wanted to be a part of were actually getting in the way of the things that were presenting themselves to me. When I was younger, again, I went through a series of different traumatic experiences that really left me in a very, very challenging state, where a lot of my mind's perceptions and beliefs were so against me. And I didn't think life was worth living, and I didn't think I would live long, and I just thought that my every day would suck forever. I had so much anxiety, so much pain, so much sadness. I didn't understand things. I didn't understand how my mind worked. That is not a way to live. Eventually, on that path of learning this bit of information here and understanding this specific fundamental truth here, I came across plant medicine, and wow, there hasn't been a single thing I've done that has been more powerful to me than to eat things of this earth. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Mm.
Eat specific plants from this earth that can physically change you forever.
Yeah.
But it's like, wait a second. Why are we trying to change ourselves in the first place again? When your mental and emotional patterns are affecting you negatively, when you feel stuck emotionally and you're in pain and suffering, when you need to break through the ways that you think to be able to create new possibilities for yourself.
100%. And, you know, I know both you and I are advocates for psychedelics because we've done them and we benefit from them. And just, you know, for anyone listening who has never tried psychedelics and you're, you know, you want to, you're curious, my first message to you is no need to, you know, rush into any kind of decision. And also to say that, you know, they can work for you and they can also not work for you. There's tons of people who, you know, don't utilize psychedelics and they can have, you know, highly spiritual experiences or breakthroughs. And but with that said, you know, psychedelics in terms of just like, you know, tools out there that you know, because I'm with Marcos, you know, psychedelics have really played a pivotal role in my own self-discovery and my own search for the truth or a sense of, you know, inner peace or happiness.
As they have for millions of people and
yeah.
all of the cultures before our time.
Yeah.
It's recorded everywhere. So many different combinations of brews of plants across the globe.
I'll say this.
That has been suppressed from our general education.
Yeah, and I do have to back Marcos up in that. Like, it seems very, what's the word? We're behind in our thinking. If it's with psychedelics being illegal, that's behind. That's we're behind in thinking.
For real.
But yeah, and I will say, I feel like the emergence of normalizing psychedelic use is definitely there's more and more voices for that. This podcast being just one example, but for example, like Tim Ferriss, I think is something Pollen, a very well-renowned author, and I believe he's a scientist or a doctor, are advocates for psychedelics. And so, but yeah, you know, and in terms of transitioning to how they've changed our lives, specifically with the context of a person who's never done them before. You know, what comes to mind for you, Marcos?
For the listener right now, let me tell you directly.
Great.
I have done a shit ton of different things from around this globe. I've done different cactuses, different mushrooms, different brews of different plants. The psychedelic experience that you gain from plant medicine is not something to be afraid of. It's not something to fear. It's not something that should be taboo at all. It's not something that should be shunned away. In fact, now is the time for us to fully embrace what they provide. You have to understand that, like, the specific plants and brews that we can create, whether it be marijuana, psilocybe cubensis, ayahuasca brew, peyote cactuses, there's so many different things, right? All of the compounds within them, the literal chemistry of these plants, that chemistry of these plants have been built up over time for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. Every living thing on this planet has a specific structure, a genetic chemical structure that also holds a level of energy associated with it. Just like we've talked about so many times, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Same goes for fucking plants. They are energetic beings that have a vessel attached to this three-dimensional matrix world. And they've been around for a long time. And the specific chemistry that they hold is a tool to be utilized for us. How? How are we utilizing this tool? The advancement of consciousness. Oh, wait, what's this podcast name? Pushing your evolution forward. Pushing our evolution forward is raising our consciousness. What does it mean to raise your consciousness? Raising your awareness of existence, every little facet that you can.
Yes.
That's what intelligence is.
Yes.
Intelligence is awareness. Awareness is intelligence.
No, perfect. So you're actually creating a beautiful little image in my mind, which is, you know, you talk about raising your consciousness. So I'd like to take a look at consciousness for a second here, and what raising consciousness might look like. So take, for example, someone who is truly a racist, right? Who truly thinks and believes that because of a color of your skin,
totally,
you are not worthy of love. You are not even, you are less than me. And that level of consciousness is lower than someone who sees past a label and the meanings under that label, and can see a person, can see a soul. And that is clearly a higher consciousness than someone who you know, isn't operating from a heart space. They're operating more from like a
judgment,
primitive, heavy mind judgment space, which is clearly lower in consciousness,
with a fixed perception, with only one meaning attached to it.
Yes, very, very much stuck in perception, stuck in labels, stuck in words, stuck so far removed from, I don't want to say reality, but what you were saying was, when you take these psychedelics, okay, so let's say that someone who's a racist is conscious level 50 to 100 out of a scale of like 1,000,000, okay? And someone who isn't a racist and it has like a loving, compassionate soul, you know, they're at like let's say like a 300, 400. Psychedelics in general resonate at like let's call it like, I don't know, high, very, very, very high, in a similar way that maybe like a bag of processed potato chips
can't hold weight to one apple.
Right. Or it definitely doesn't vibe the same way that like a salad does. Right. So in that kind of way, psychedelics resonate or exist at a high level in the same way that like vegetables and fruits do to like processed food.
It's no surprise that we highly value intelligence, because intelligence is awareness, gathering awareness, and understanding bigger and bigger context of your existence, and to any large or small degree. That's all we're ever doing. Like, that's literally all we're doing our entire life. And then taking that knowledge and applying that knowledge and creating technology for us to make our lives better, make future generations' lives better, right? Creating systems that govern us on large or small scales that create better outcomes overall.
Yes. And so in terms of how psychedelics have changed my life, for me, anytime I take a psychedelic, I'm first of all, I get a lot of emotions are processed and ideally let go of. And so I typically walk away just feeling a little lighter, as well as having, how can I put this? Like, for example, if you spend so much time in stress and overthinking and analyzing and fear-based thinking, when you take a psychedelic, oftentimes you can be propelled into this space that I like to call the space of there are no problems, or like problems don't exist. which is a space where you're so present and you realize that nothing your mind really fixates on and always has something to complain about. That in reality, like things are so grand. And this kind of connects to a common experience. I don't know the official word for it, but a common experience I've had and others have on shrooms or other psychedelics, which is this experience of like just this like giddy laughter over how silly it is to worry so much when life is so great and there's really not much to worry about. There's not much to worry about, if anything. And in terms of, again, this kind of practical viewpoint on it, so that I think many people can relate when you say, like, just constantly worrying about something. Kind of think about, for a lot of people, it's hard to go to sleep because you're just constantly just like thinking about something. Your thoughts get to you. And it's that kind of like, we're all susceptible to that type of way of existing. Always worried in thought, caught up in thought, worried in thought. Right. Whereas the psychedelics, in a similar way that meditation is supposed to help you, you're no longer at the center of this problem-ridden life. You're outside of, you're outside of that like, like plane of thinking, that plane of consciousness. And so just like in how meditation, you're supposed to let thoughts pass, instead of being the thoughts, the technical term is you're observing the thoughts.
Right. You're watching the being having the thoughts.
And to kind of close my thoughts here is, so that the psychedelics help you access that observer and take you out of that stress. And so for me, they've really helped connect me to my observer. First, it helped me see my observer and get connected to my observer. That's what marijuana first did. It was like the first time I was like, oh my God, I'm not my anxious self. I'm not my anxious feelings and thoughts. That's crazy.
Whoa, man.
Yeah. And so, psychedelics.
Are you smoking that reefer, man?
Psychedelics has only helped me become more aware of what the observer is and break through some of my traumas and stuff.
Gabe is right on the money, guys. He is talking about the fundamental truths of understanding what it looks like when your consciousness raises, right? He talked a lot about that neutral headspace. You said the space in your mind when you transcend the story, all the thoughts that you have of how things should be, how you are, how things want to be. You pass the realm of duality, and we've used this term a lot, but what do we really mean by duality? Stick with us right now, because this is going to be an eye-opener. The entire point of this three-dimensional space is duality, separation. The whole premise of it works on understanding one thing from another, right? The desk from my chair, my body from someone else's body, my ownership over something over someone else's ownership over something, when clearly it really doesn't exist, but it's a mental construct. You see what I'm saying? The same way that the physical objects are a duality construct in your three-dimensional space, the identity and thoughts and assumptions and beliefs and patterns of thinking that you have in your mind are a dualistic understanding of the difference between good, bad, right, wrong, just, unjust, good for me, bad for me, ineffective, effective. Do you see?
I see.
It's all fragmentation. It's all a necessary way to understand this from that. What I really want to be, as opposed to what I really don't want to be. It's all duality. When you take plant medicine, When you go into the psychedelic experience, you're leaving the world of duality. There's no more separation. First mental, where it's me versus the world, not versus, but me as opposed to the world, right? My thought of what I am as opposed to what I think I could be. And then sometimes that can transfer into a visual representation. And that's how you have so many different abstract formations and colors and designs that you see all over the world from all different kinds of plant medicines that people experience in different worlds that they go to and different beings that they contact. You are transcending the world of your three-dimensional space. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. There are multiple layers to the existential reality that you're really a part of. So, when you transcend duality, you enter first the space of neutrality, where you don't have an identity anymore because you are everything. So what happens when you no longer identify with something? You identify with everything, and it allows you to connect more to the present moment, which is the only thing we're experiencing, is the constant, perpetual, emerging, existential present moment. The past and the future are just constructs of duality, different from this moment. So when you transcend duality, you transcend the dimension of duality. You are entering a new dimension, but from the perspective of you, which is part of you as a 3D object expanding into larger dimensions.
Oh boy. Thank you for that, Marcos. And real quick, everybody. So whatever's resonating for you right now, that's all good. And if something doesn't click or whatever, that's fine. And you know, my suggestion is to you know, the best you can, stay rooted in your body more than your head, and exactly. Really and kind of with that, like that's one way that psychedelics help as well, helping re-access the body, because I think a lot of us, we get disconnected from our body and we really start to operate and live in our heads.
Exactly. And this is the best way I like to frame it when understanding what it feels like to be in the third person perspective. Most people, and this isn't a joke, this is real. Most people on this planet live like they're actors on a stage who don't know they're acting. Literally. Like that is 95% of the current population. And it's not a bad or good thing. It is just their level of consciousness. They haven't had enough experiences and certain programmings to understand the third person perspective. But that's changing now. I would say there's more now than ever. Collectively, we're at the highest level of consciousness we've ever been. But you have to understand that even you right now might be thinking this way, where you go through your life collecting experiences from your first person perspective because it is your experience, right? You're not looking over your shoulder watching you go through the experience. You are you going through the experience, and you start to build the story of what your experiences are and what they mean to you throughout your life. And that's why there are so many different experiences where we don't really have like control over our reactions to them. We're not emotionally or consciously capable of processing them in a way that's going to benefit us. So we go through life collecting all of these different tiny little fixed perceptions and traumas and sadnesses, or things that, you know, ways that we see the world that we don't really fully agree with or that limit us throughout our life. And we collect them all into a conglomerated story of us, what we call us, our identity, our ego. And people go through life with this collection of experiences as if they can't change it or do anything about it. It's just me. But the truth is that you are whatever you program yourself to be. There have been many times in your life when you wanted to learn something, or you wanted to gain some specific knowledge, or you wanted to create a specific version of you, and you tapped into your human potential and your human power. You shaped your being. The fundamental truth of reality here is that you are 100% in control of shaping your being all the time. When you go through the psychedelic experience, you put yourself in the third person perspective. You become the actor, understanding he's acting in the play. And it's a whole new perspective. You begin to see the story of you from a whole new perspective, as just that, a story.
Yes, well said. Well said. So yeah, you know what I heard you saying is basically, and this is for our listeners, taking psychedelics can help you process a lot of your blind spots and see how your blind spots were, you know,
just things you haven't addressed yet.
Basically, things that have been addressed, but with what Marco was saying with the actor of the play, how these blind spots are kind of dictating your world. Because, for example, just as a basic example, let's say, you know, as a kid, let's say 5, 6, 7 years old, you would go to your parents and you would want their attention, but you didn't know how to get it. And anytime you asked for it, they got mad at you, right? So then you learn as a kid that like asking for attention is not okay. And maybe you developed a strategy at a young age where, okay, in order to get attention, I have to overachieve, right? And so then growing up, you essentially create this schism or this rule called, in order to feel love, I need to achieve. And so then that kind of starts to, and it works, right? So you notice as a kid, oh my God, when I achieve, I get mom and dad's love. That's how I get my love. And then 30 years down the road, you find yourself having kind of built a life a little bit based on this need to achieve to get love. And so the way psychedelics would help is typically helping you see blind spots that are somehow or another probably getting in the way of you having more of what you want, which is basically just vitality in its different forms.
And it's like that right there, Gabe, is exactly why plant medicine in general can be one of the greatest tools you've ever used, or like the worst experience you've ever had. You know what I mean?
Yes. And could you actually, maybe you can clarify a little more for the viewers what you mean?
It's the fact that, like, again, like, you are in control of the meaning of your experience, right? There are, our body works on biochemical feedback system loops, once again, where it's important for us to dualistically understand pain versus not pain, right? Happiness versus not happy. It's like a necessary component to understanding the conscious expansion of our own awareness. So when people are faced with a biological change causing their identity to shift, they have the choice, right? They have the choice to react in whatever way they want. And a perfect example is with marijuana. You all know, probably everyone listening to this smokes weed. If you all have that one friend, or you've encountered someone before where every time they smoke weed, they just get paranoid. And they always, I always get paranoid. I can't smoke weed because I start to feel all this fear and then I can't control myself. And it's like, dude, look, that's the point. Just like how the iboga plant in Africa, or the ayahuasca brew in the Amazon is not a pleasant experience to go through. In fact, you throw up a lot commonly, and it's just not a very physically fun thing to go through. It's not like, oh yeah, I get to go do ayahuasca, I'm gonna love the process. It's more like I'm gonna endure the process, because
Sure. Yeah.
it's not necessarily fun.
Yeah. Sure.
And sometimes when you're smoking weed, right, and you're starting to feel paranoia, that's because you're energetically connecting to something. Your consciousness raises every time you smoke weed. Like it's literally the transition of energetic frequencies that you are allowing into your space beyond the chemistry of what's happening with the cannabinoids. What is it? I'm looking this up. Yes, tetrahydrocannabinol,
There you go.
THC.
For anyone who's never tried before, I would say, for me personally, it definitely takes getting used to in terms of just knowing what it's like when you delve into these worlds. Um, because you do in a way go into another world. It's another conscious perception. It's a alternate conscious experience. Kind of in a way how when you drink alcohol, your perceptions change. When you smoke weed, they change, and so when you take these psychedelics, it changes as well. And typically, if you're going through something, or maybe there's some emotions or thoughts that you haven't processed, oftentimes whatever psychedelic you take, it can often and does have you confront whatever that is. And to Marcos's point, like when you get paranoid or when you need to throw up, it's because of the intensity of whatever is coming up for you.
The shift.
Um,
the letting go of your identities, the letting
yeah.
go of however you're perceiving something in particular, and resisting the process as a whole, right? Paranoia is fear. Fear is anticipation of an event that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. I like that, by the way. But yeah, so that, the psychedelics all kind of point towards letting go. You processing whatever you haven't processed and letting it go. Or or specifically, for example, I would say, man, so I've done weed, obviously, and the psychedelics I've tried are shrooms about a handful of times, and ayahuasca once. But personally, if I had to choose one of them to do, one only to do, like for the rest of my life, I'd personally choose ayahuasca. For me, I don't know if it was because of the shaman I did it with, or what have you, or the type of brew or whatever, but I found the ceremony and the experience very holy. Holy is the word I kept using. It felt like a type of church, or at the very least, it definitely felt like a retreat,
a religious experience. Hallelujah.
Yes, man, it was so intense. Like this retreat of souls who had all agreed to enter this space, this conscious space, and
coming together with the same desire to expand consciousness.
And yes, and many times throughout my ceremony, I felt like I was in the presence of just that Native American energy, very just like earthly and highly connected to the spiritual, very respectful of the spiritual, and appreciative, and acknowledging of that spiritual realm, specifically through like the planes of ayahuasca and stuff. But for me, the difference between shrooms and ayahuasca seemed, for the record, I've never done shrooms in a like contained space like that. Whereas with ayahuasca, it was a very contained space. So I would say the most contained experience I had with shrooms was actually with you, Marcos. And that so happens to be one of the more powerful shroom trips I've ever had. But my experience with ayahuasca was way more, I want to say like, I don't know if tangible is the right word, but you know, I walked away with a journal full of notes, and it just seemed like so many lessons, whether they were simple lessons or hardcore heavy lessons. Um, there were just a ton of them. And so much, I would say for sure, between the two, ayahuasca really was about diving into those deep traumas and letting them go. Because remember, I told Marcos this the other day, but the days after ayahuasca, I would say a week or two after ayahuasca, my body was so relaxed. And that had to do with how much letting go that I've done, that I did during that specific ceremony. And that's, and so, yeah, my whole point was that psychedelics seem to lead to this, lead towards just letting go. And so for me personally, a lot of what I just focus on a daily moment to moment basis is just letting go. And that's kind of like whether it was through my psychedelic experiences or just through my own personal experiences and study, you know, with books and stuff, like it all kind of pointed and landed on just letting go. And that's just kind of like where I'm at now. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's
psychedelics definitely played a major role in all of that.
yeah, and when Gabe is saying letting go, like I might I might hype up pushing your evolution forward, but it's like, you know, half the time pushing your evolution forward is letting go of things.
Yeah.
It's like it really is just a process of learning, unlearning, learning, unlearning.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is what reality is. Okay, got it. Okay, moving forward. Okay, this is what needs to change here. Okay, this is what I'm
Right.
thinking in my mind that's stifling my growth. Okay, changing that perception. It's just
Right.
letting go of fixed perceptions of reality that limit your ability to create anything, whether it be internal, external. That is healing. That is
Yes.
why we have real medicine. Real
Yes.
medicine heals the true source of the dis-ease state that our body is experiencing.
Dis-ease.
It's
Yes.
not a suppression of symptoms. It's
Mm.
not lifelong medication use. It's not take 2 of these in the morning.
Eesh.
It's not get this surgery, right? It's not what most of the Western culture is doing right now. And of course, a lot of the holistic understanding is growing big time.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
when we're happy for it, 100%. But we
mhm.
want to really bring into light more use of shrooms, of San Pedro, of peyote, of ayahuasca, of all the different plant medicines, iboga that serve their purpose. And like I said before, the cultures before us, Native American cultures, they used peyote cactus to really connect to the environment the same way we're doing it.
Mhm.
And
Right.
and we are experiencing a whole different set of challenges than they are, and their life was much more simpler, to be honest. I
Mhm,
mean, not in the sense of I have to go catch my food, but it was very clear what they should have done for their own
mhm,
survival.
mhm.
Their level of consciousness and what they had to do to create balance and harmony with the world was on a whole different plane. Now in the 21st, now in 2021, we are at the highest level of advanced technology we ever had, right? On most of the globe, we don't really have to grow our own food. We can just buy it. We get what we need. We don't have a
Mhm.
lot of the putting us into the Mother Earth ground skills to take care of our daily survival experiences like they did.
Mhm.
Now we're in a much different space where our ability to transcend survival states is gone. We step into the world of self-actualization when we realize that we have so much ability to create so much in our life. We can tap into the same levels of love and gratitude and pure unconditional acceptance of our experience that the Native Americans did at their level. And on our level, it's different. Right now, most of our focus in pushing your evolution forward is now becoming understanding the finer points to the specific identities that you want to create. Wouldn't you agree, Gabe?
Yes, you're talking about the focus is no longer being run by trauma or or blind spots or you know the conditioned you, and transitioning towards, you know, a chosen a created life, or a chosen identity rather.
Right, exactly.
Yeah 100%, man.
You tuning in right now, like, listen, man, listen, or woman, or whoever you are. Listen, it's your choice. It's your choice to be who you want to be.
You
like,
know what?
that is what the psychedelic experience helps you understand.
Yeah, you know, to give a little more context to that, you know, because I'm imagining someone listening, you know, might, you know, the mindset might be like, you know, you can be whoever you want to be, and you might, you know, think that's BS, or that sounds too high in the sky, or what have you. And I think what we're pointing to is you know, man, how can I put this? Like, first of all, it definitely is possible, but what the psychedelics can help you with is, maybe for the first time ever, help you step outside of limited beliefs or limited ways of being and feeling, which most likely has to do with some type of unprocessed trauma, or even, to get a little more simple, just some type of, you know, subconscious limiting belief that may have been taught to you when you're growing up, as many of us are taught many limiting beliefs. And this maybe kind of brings it back to, you know, who this podcast is for, which is, you know, people who are looking to, in one sense, like, kind of maximize their life on earth in as much happiness and fulfillment, as well as the whatever goals you have in mind.
To take back control over how
And,
you exist.
yes, and I would say the key word is probably just empowerment. This has become more true and true as time goes on for me. Like, it's just about empowerment. And so whatever brings you a sense of empowerment really kind of is the end all be all. Because that, whatever ends up empowering you is going to be the key for you. And by empowerment, I mean that feeling of that happy,
you're not limited to the story,
that happy sense of confidence that you can go about whatever it is you want to go about.
I love that.
Yeah. And it's and what psychedelics can do is help, like I've been saying this whole time, like help process and unearth whatever blocks really the emotions that get in the way of you naturally just kind of like vibrating from the space of like anything is possible. And only if you want it. And that's kind of what I found, and I wanted to mention this, which is, you know, no need to, you know, for me, when I tried psychedelics for the first time, and anytime I try a new psychedelic, in fact, anytime I decide to take psychedelics, it's with a healthy dose of patience first. I hardly ever, basically never, just take psychedelics on a whim. I personally like to treat them with a ton of respect, except for maybe marijuana, which I do a lot more casually. But you know, so if you're not resonating with doing psychedelics right now, no worries. That is what's right for you right now. And for me personally, I just let my curiosity take control. And when I was ready, I would do it. And I'll send the same message to everyone that was told to me, which is, you know, whether it's shrooms, ayahuasca, if it's meant for you, it'll call to you, maybe multiple times. And then when you're ready, just step into humility and courage and go from there. Humility and courage, and go from there.
Exactly. Go for it.
Yeah.
Because you shed literal years off of your mental and emotional progression when you take plant medicine. Like, the psychedelic experience is basically just the raising of your identity. It's the transcendence of your consciousness and understanding that you can create any type of story that you want. You have infinite identities to what you can think of you as. You can literally create any version of you that you want. An amazing version, a shitty version. But see, it takes your perception to understand what that difference is on a biological, conscious, subconscious, and spiritual level. There is a path for you. And you must look at it right in the fucking eyes and either accept it or don't. And if you don't accept it and you know it's for you because your intuition is like, yo, please, can we please go down this path? It's going to be best for you. Do it. Fucking do it. You owe it to yourself. There's nothing to be afraid of when it comes to shrooms or weed. Go buy a joint. Right? Go to Oakland, California, and find a church that you can now legally buy mushrooms from. Since they're the first city in California to decriminalize them.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I think this was last year or 2 years ago, and they just had a cup, the same way that they have the Emerald Cup for marijuana. Yeah, so it's coming to light now, and we really want you to understand that you don't have to suffer in life. Like, everything that we're sharing with you is to help alleviate your pain. Pain is inevitable. You're going to experience it as a function of duality, but you don't have to stay in it. And one of the best ways to continuously push your evolution forward is to put yourself more and more in the third person perspective, where you're the actor realizing he's acting on a stage, right? When you see yourself as a story being played out and you understand that you can change the story. That's the point of meditation. That is what the mystics call enlightenment. We can reach enlightenment. We can tap into it whenever we want. But it takes a little bit of raising our perspective, aka raising our consciousness, aka raising our awareness, expanding our understanding of the larger and larger perspective of things. Like, it's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's really straightforward. The ancient cultures before us on all the different continents understood this fundamental understanding of reality because it wasn't as taboo for them to take these plant medicines. In freaking India, the Soma brew was like opium, marijuana, this other type of plant. They speculated they've mixed it with all different kinds of things, like the lotus flower in Egypt. Like, it was so common for them to take these things. Well, you know, depending on the social class you were in, it wasn't taboo. They understood the process of raising their consciousness. In fact, there is so much, I believe, is being hidden from us about ancient cultures that we really don't understand. But that's a whole nother topic.
Oh, goodness.
Just understand that, like, let go of thinking these are bad things. Do you want to honestly know what bad things are? Antidepressants. For real. No, I'm going to tell you right now, don't take them because you're just going to fuck up your chemistry. You don't want to rely on something to chemically alter you because then your body will forget how to produce those specific substances.
Yeah.
Plant medicine isn't something you're continuously doing. You can go through one ayahuasca experience and it will change the next 10 years of your life when you only did it one night, couple hours. That is the power of true medicine, digging deep into your biological spiritual being and releasing all the gunk and emotions and blockages that you've kept over the years, and just throwing it all in your face and giving you the choice, showing you the door and saying, are you gonna walk through it? Are you going to face the fire of change? And of course your answer is yes.
So yeah, everybody, you know, wherever you're at, it's perfectly good. For those of you who are taking your first psychedelic soon or will be soon, you know, excited for you, and like I said, humility and courage. For those of you on the fence, you know, continue doing your own research. Like I said, this podcast was full of a lot of good ones, but if you check out Tim Ferriss as well, I think it's Michael Pollan. I know Joe Rogan's done a podcast with this Pollan guy, and so there's a lot more, even more reputable, and I want to say like research based, you know, stuff about psychedelics on there. So, and I didn't even know that there were churches that sell mushrooms and are decriminalized. So that's fantastic. We're definitely, that's, you know, I thought we were a little ways away from that, but the fact that that's been already open for a year or two, like you said, Marcos, that's incredible.
Definitely.
And you know, I if you're willing to drink alcohol, then you know, you've already had mind-altering substances, and I do think that if we keep evolving at a healthy rate, I'm talking about the human species, then I believe, you know, conscious tools like psychedelics definitely will play a part in that, especially because, and I want to start like trailing towards a close here, Marcos, but you know, I would say the biggest threat to the humanity, besides, you know, an asteroid or something like that, is literally ourselves, right? Whether that's you know, we're hoarding all the resources, or rather we're using up all the resources of the earth. You know, and we treat it very poorly. We take more than we give, so it seems. And so, and not only that, but just like, you know, we very much still have a lot of animalistic thinking, right? Primal jungle like thinking, which is more survival based. Whereas psychedelics, because their main function is to raise consciousness, could and probably will play a role in the evolution of humanity. You know, it will, yeah. And so I know it's played a part in mine. Like, I really can see there's just like this, I don't know what to call it, like there is a, I want to say like peace, or, you know, there's access to a new level of consciousness that I don't know if I'd have without my psychedelic experiences. Because it's kind of like, you know, you don't know what Disneyland's like until you've been to Disneyland. You don't know what something's like until you've been to it. And for a lot of people, psychedelics is our like first experience of higher levels of consciousness.
Third person perspective.
Think about like, you know, I think it's I forget what time period it is. When was Woodstock?
1960 something.
So the 60s, whenever it was, the 60s, you know, a lot of people were taking, what was it, like MDMA, shrooms, acid,
in
LSD.
the 60s and 70s, yeah. Massive LSD and psilocybin, cubens, all mushrooms of all types.
And what is that era associated with? Love, peace, psychedelic colors,
disconnecting
brightness
from the system.
Yes, right, and the revolution. And so, in a lot of ways, that's what psychedelics does. Is it helps you access, you know, these more connected and harmonious energies, compared to what the earth typically resonates at, or rather what people typically resonate at, which is like, you know, at best, kind of like maybe tolerating each other with compassion for most,
A lot of separation.
Yes, but majority is just a lot of separation. Exactly.
And guys, this was just an intro to begin that conversation with you, to understand that, you know, psychedelics are useful. And in the future, whether it be season 1 or season 2, we're going to dive more deeply into specific things and with a lot of tools that you can take away to specifically maximize your experiences with specific plants.
Yes, 100%. So I'm sure that me and Marcos we will definitely be talking about psychedelics more in the future, but hopefully this intro podcast to psychedelics you found very useful and something you can reference moving forward. And like I said, man, for those of you who are about to try your psychedelics for the first time, you know, soon, congrats to you. Hope it goes well. However it goes, it's how it's meant to go for you. And then for everyone else, you know, just continue doing your research, and hopefully one day you do find what you're looking for. And yeah, really just kind of happy for everyone. Psychedelics is and can be useful. And so yeah, and other than that, just want to hope everyone's doing well. You know, no matter what you're going through, you know, it's meant for you, whether that's something good or bad. If you've accomplished something lately, you know, congrats to you. You know, find ways to celebrate yourself. And yeah, I heard this quote the other day. It's a great day to have a great day. So,
I love it.
You know, and you know, wherever you're at,
you're exactly where you need to be.
Exactly. But yeah, man, you wanna send us off?
I hope that we've expanded and began to open your third eye, your sixth chakra.
Yes, sir.
If you can't feel it, you're gonna feel it soon, baby. Thank you for listening.
Yep.
Have a beautiful day.
Have a beautiful day, everybody.
Peace.
We love y'all. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.